You're critical of our not standing up to the Soviet Union. But, Mr. Nixon, as president, you aggressively pursued detente with the Soviet Union. Now today you say it's not enough, that what we need also is containment. But the big question is, where do we contain the Russians? Where do we say, that's it, no more, and perhaps even confront them militarily?
Well, let us just understand, when I talk about containment, that I not only practice detente with containment, but that I would insist today that the reason that detente is not working is that we have not had containment. It's rather interesting to note that just 6 years ago tonight, May 8th, 1972, I made a speech to the nation on television, carried on ABC and the other networks. And in that speech, I announced that we were going to bomb and mine Haiphong and Hanoi. That was 2 weeks before the Soviet summit. I did that because unless that decision had been made, I would have been going to Moscow at a time that Soviet tanks operated by the North Vietnamese would have been running through the streets of Saigon. People said that the Soviet would not go to the summit in the event that we did it. It did not happen that way. Because we stood up to them, we were able to sit down with them, and that is the way detente works.
Okay, but where, now, look at recent history. Where would that tripwire have been? Angola? Ethiopia? Or let's get closer. What would you have done when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan? That was not done.
Well, you said, where do you start? I would have started with Angola. President Ford tried to start with Angola. I would have conditioned, at that point, first I would have conditioned further relations with the Soviet, things that they want, further negotiations on arms control, trade, and et cetera, on their ceasing their support of Castro sending troops into Angola. And second,
and if
I would say if they didn't, under the circumstances, then I would have supported, which of course, as you remember, an attempt was made to get the Congress to support. I would have supported those forces in Angola who were opposed to the Soviet forces. We failed to do that. And incidentally, I may say that some conservative Republicans and conservative Democrats went along with that failure, to their discredit, in my opinion.
Would you have sent American forces?
It would not have been necessary. We had the forces, and as a matter of fact, right now, Mr. Svambimbi has been over here in the United States, and he should be supported against the Angolan forces there, the Soviet government. In other words, it isn't right to have them have a happy hunting ground here in the free world without our trying to stop them there.
Okay, let's go closer. Afghanistan. The Soviet Union invades Afghanistan. What would you have done then, and what would you do now? They're in there.
Well, first of all, 18 months before they invaded Afghanistan, they had a coup d'etat which gave them control of Afghanistan. They should have been stood up to then, and then we should have conditioned our further discussion of arms control, which they wanted, on that particular...
Well, you keep talking about standing up to. Let's take it right now. How do we stand up to them now? How do we get them out of there now?
Well, the way we get them out now, first, is to recognize that we don't have many options due to the fact that we didn't stand up earlier. I think that the Soviet Union was very surprised when the reaction in the West, and the reaction particularly the United States, was as it was when they went into Afghanistan, because we had not objected as strongly as we could have objected when they went in 18 months before. The second point is, I think that doing what we have done is correct. We should not be going to Moscow to high jump with them right after they've jumped Afghanistan. And then third, I think that it's necessary to recognize that they aren't going to get out of Afghanistan, not now. But I think we then change the dialogue, and we change it in this way. We say to them that not only do we not accept their going into Afghanistan with the Red Army, but that further negotiations on things that they want, arms control, trade, and et cetera, will be conditioned on their stopping their support of Castro's forces in Angola, in Ethiopia, and in Yemen. I think, in other words, we should lay it right on the line to them. And I would hope that when Senator Muskie, now Secretary of State Muskie, meets with his opposite member, Mr. Gromyko, he will lay it on the line and say, we disapprove of Afghanistan, we believe you should get out of there, but let's start with where they were in before in those three countries.
And we will do what? I mean, we already have said that we're not going to send them technological supplies, we're not going to send them grain, we're not going to have the Olympics. What else?
I've just indicated what we should do. I think one of the biggest mistakes of the present administration has been that when they have made these moves, when they went into Ethiopia, when they went into Yemen, when they went into Afghanistan, to go right ahead with arms control negotiations and that sort of thing. Now they have stopped, and I give them credit for that.